We get a lot of questions about Yellowdig's point system from instructors and how to set it up and how to think about the points. And there's a little bit of an art as well as a science in this, but I wanted to provide one example from a community where the same instructor had used Yellowdig across multiple years and attempted different things with the point system so that you could see how the point system really actually changes student behavior in a real course. So this course was a large undergraduate course run by Adam Munson at the University of Florida. And he tried various things with the point system. At the time that he set this up, Yellowdig was sort of more in its infancy. We didn't have as many of our best practices out in the world, and he did what he thought was kind of the most likely thing to work, and what a lot of actual novices for Yellowdig do. They really sort of value posts quite a lot because they think that's the hard part. That's creating the content, and then the commenting kind of takes a back seat. At the time, we didn't even have the feature for getting comments, for getting points for comments on posts. So that was turned off. And when that feature became available, he started messing around with that also. All of his courses used similar sort of a number of points for reactions. The interesting thing is that when you value posts quite a lot, students don't actually take part in back and forth conversations. This is really similar to what we see in a standard discussion space where you have one post and two comments, most often as the sort of assignment, right? Here you'll see that the average student got to almost the point goal, but they certainly weren't going above and beyond. If you fast forward a couple of years, Adam is now giving more points for comments compared to posts, so they're about equal, and he's valuing getting comments on your post quite a lot. What you see is that gets a really high conversation ratio, which is the total number of comments per post. And what we see almost invariably is that when the comment to pin ratio is really high, when there's a lot of comments per post, you get students really exceeding the point goal on average by quite a bit. So these students participated almost a quarter above what was required within that course. So that's just an illustration of how the point system works, but let's also look at what it did to student behavior. Here, this is the board that had the lowest activity in 16 of spring. What you see is students start out actually posting and commenting at about the same rate. Over time, they learn that the fastest way to get their points is to create posts. Okay, the other thing you can see is these deadlines, right? The gray are the weekly deadline. And you'll see that the max student behavior is typically at the deadline. Here you can see by valuing by valuing comments more often, students will post comments more often. And then, the posts are sort of just a baseline to actually have conversations about. The interesting thing, as I pointed out, is there is more procrastination actually when posts are overvalued. That's because students come in, they think their job is to post. They can wait to the deadline to do that, and then they'll just comment on anything that's there. It's really similar when you overvalue posts to what you'll tend to see in a sort of standard discussion forum. When you value comments as we would recommend as a best practice, students actually come in at the beginning of the week. They post posts and comments earlier in the week, and they're less likely to then have to earn their points at the end of the week. The other thing we see is that when you value posts, students don't actually connect with each other as much. So these are network graphs showing student connections. And when you value pins, or when you value comments on the posts, students are more likely to actually comment on each other, read each other's posts, think, actually have good back and forth conversations. So here's a really good example of how the point system can really influence student behavior at a global level and make a gigantic difference in the total output with almost no difference in how the professor taught the class. This instructor had no prompts at all and allowed students to create their own.